Well, I've got great memories of boxing. I've been in it my whole life. My first memories are of boxing. I was born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. My father was a police officer and eventually became in charge of the Police Athletic League in Trenton, New Jersey. He was one of the original founders of the Police Athletic League. And first couple of years he was walking a beat. Eventually he became a detective, and his assignment was the youth and the Police Athletic League for Trenton, New Jersey. The Police Athletic League is a multi-sport program, so obviously there were many sports involved, but my father's specialty was boxing, and the Police Athletic League boxing gym was coincidentally adjacent to my house growing up in Trenton. So I remember being in the gym as a toddler, running around, seeing a lot of good fighters there. The Goss brothers were great names in Trenton, New Jersey back in the late 50s and early 60s. Some of my fondest memories are of Joe Frazier, when Joe Frazier was in the amateur program out of Philadelphia, and he would come into to our gym in Trenton frequently for sparring and to work out and to be in many of our boxing tournaments. Joe was a terrific person. Obviously he was much younger back then, but just a typical boxer, someone that is from your lower socioeconomic areas. They think they're tough guys, but boxers aren't tough guys. Boxers are nice people. They're gentlemen. They go into boxing gyms because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to be on the streets. They want to be in a boxing gym, stay safe. Their dream is to become the next Muhammad Ali or the next wealthy boxer. So that's what the kids do. They come into gyms. The gym is a community center. They come in with their children. They come in with their families, and they hang out. That's what I remember. So I think of a boxing gym, and particularly I think of Gleason's gym, not as a fight gym, not as only of a place that has had 134 world champions, but it's a community center. You see children in here, you see wives in here, you see people having a good time in here, and that's what I like. It makes me very, very happy. But my memories back in Trenton growing up, I don't know whether my first memories I was 4 or 5 or whatever, but it was in a gym. I would be in the gym watching all these really good athletes working out, sweating really hard, but great bodies. I mean, you know, I guess people weren't as fat back then as they are today, but even with a few fat people, boxers weren't fat. They were long and thin, good-looking guys. No women. We had no women, no children in the gyms at the time. But these were just a bunch of guys that were tough guys and nice. And you know, being the owner's son, I guess they were more respectful or nicer to me than usual. But they all talked to me, played with me, let me go in the ring with them. So I have fond memories of boxing as a youngster. And as fond as my memories were back when I was 4 or 5, they are that way today. Okay, I've just turned 70 years of age. I guess the majority of my life has been in and out of boxing gyms, and for the past 37 years I've been the owner of Gleason's, but only good memories. The people that come into the gym, not only the fighters, not only the kids, but the celebrities, the politicians, the movie people, the people that I see that I would never possibly have met in my life if it wasn't for Gleason's gym, just give me great memories. Another good part of a boxing gym, I can only speak specifically of Gleason's, but I think all boxing gyms are pretty much the same. People come into a boxing gym and they're equal. Okay, so if you see that camera behind me, people that are training, you don't know whether they're executives on Wall Street that are billionaires. You don't know whether they're doctors, lawyers, school teachers, kids from the projects that have no money. They all look alike, they dress alike, and they're practicing one thing up here, boxing. So everybody is very happy to be here. There's no arguments, there's no fights. When some of the movie stars that come in here, and if you read in the paper that they're a diva and they're fussy and they have to have certain color jelly beans in their tray, when they come up here, there's none of that. Whether they're intimidated or not, I'm not sure. But nobody has an attitude up here. Everybody is equal up here. The kids from the projects pay the exact same as the people from Wall Street. If Mike Tyson was to walk in here right now and wanted to train, he'd pay the same fee as anybody else would. And as a boxer, as a Mike Tyson, he would go around the room and talk to everybody in here. He would be kind, he would sign autographs, he would take pictures. So boxers are unique individuals. Boxing gyms are unique places, but a boxer, unlike a baseball player, or unlike a basketball player or a hockey player, they're human beings. They relate to people. Okay, so again, if Muhammad Ali walked in here today, or if a Joey Gamache walked in here today, and somebody walked up to him and said, "Hey, I remember you, I saw your picture," he would sign a picture, he would sign it. He wouldn't say, "Give me money." Okay, if you went to Yankee Stadium and you wanted to get a picture or an autograph with a New York Yankee, you couldn't get close to him. You'd be arrested before you could get that close to him. If you were able to speak to him, he'd say, "See my agent. You know, an autograph costs $100. My picture costs $200." So boxers are different. It's a friendly place. It's something that people that aren't used to coming into a boxing gym are amazed at. People walk up my stairs and their nose starts to pucker because it smells a little bit in here. And once they get in here, they don't know what to expect. After a very, very short period of time, they find out everybody is friendly. You can take pictures, you can talk to people. So it's always a very, very enjoyable experience. That's my memory of boxing from when I was 4 years old until today. I had probably one of the greatest moms going, okay? There's myself, my father, and I had an older brother. And my mom, I'm sorry to say, today's age is a little bit different. My mom doted over us. We couldn't do anything. My mother wanted to do everything for us. That was back in the 50s and 60s. That's how it was. And, you know, the dad went out to work. My dad is a cop. He went out to work. My mom stayed home. She took care of the family. She cooked for us. She did our laundry, whatever. And she just babied us up until I was 18 years of age when I went away to college. You know, so she was a wonderful woman. I loved her immensely. I still do. She was kind. And I guess my personality comes from my father and my mother. I mean, they were kind people. You know, my dad was a police officer, but he didn't work as a police officer. He worked as someone in charge of the police athletic program, which is a program for kids. It's a program for people that are underprivileged, can't afford a lot of things. So he was here and taking care of people, being kind to people all the time, finding money to help people. My mom was the same way. She was always out there helping my dad and assisting with whatever she could do. And so my brother and I were the same way. And you know, I find it amazing when you go into an establishment and the management is not nice. They're grumpy or whatever. I mean, it's hard to get customers. It's hard to keep customers. And if you're nice, people appreciate it and then they come back. So, you know, I think it's a good business acumen as well. Great. You know, Gleason's Gym started in 1937 in the Bronx, New York. It was in the Bronx from 1937 to 1974. In 1974, the building we were in was torn down and they turned it into a housing project, but the gym had to relocate. And the original owner, Bobby Gleason, moved it into Manhattan. It was on the corner of 30th and 8th, and it was the first time that a boxing gym was on a street level. So the gym on 30th Street was street level. People could look in, they could walk in, and it was there for 10 years. At one point, we lost our lease again, and we had to look around. By that time, a fellow named Ira Becker had purchased the gym, and I was the president of amateur boxing. And one day I walked into Gleason's gym and was talking to the fellow that was owner. His name is Ira Becker. And in casual conversation, he said he was looking for a partner. So the next day I went to Sears Roebuck and Company. That's where I worked. Okay, after I graduated college, I was recruited by the retailer Sears, and I was working with them in a management position for 16 years. The longer I worked with them, the more I knew I disliked it. I disliked wearing a suit and tie every day and being up with all these quotas, and you have to do this and you have to do that, and worrying about end caps. So my hobby being boxing, I went into Gleason's. Ira Becker said he was looking for a partner. That's all it took. The next day I went back to Sears. I resigned. I took my profit sharing and I bought the gym. So we were there in Manhattan. This was about 1983, 84. We were there for a few more years when we lost our lease and we looked around. We came over to this area. This is now called Dumbo. That Dumbo stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. It's currently ranked the 4th wealthiest neighborhood in the entire city, including Manhattan. So I was very fortunate. When we came here 31 years ago, it was not what it is today. There were no streets, there were no sidewalks, no one lived in this area, and there were only 2 businesses other than Gleason's Gym. It was a very dark, danky area and very scary for people. I didn't mind coming over here because I had boxers. I have a monopoly on boxers, and at that time we only had boxers. There were no women in the gym, there were no children in the gym, so it didn't matter. The fighters followed us and came over here, and eventually the area became much, much nicer. As I said, it's now the fourth wealthiest area in the whole neighborhood. You can't get into Dumbo. There are no more residential vacancies. There are no more commercial vacancies. What they're now doing is going up higher. They're making more high-rises than we had before. But it's gorgeous. The reason why we came over here was because it was dark and danky and we could afford the rent. It was back in the 80s. There was a recession going on. We certainly couldn't afford anything in Manhattan. So when we met the developer over here, his name is David Walentis, he told us what his projects were and what he was planning on doing, and in 20 years it was going to be a nice neighborhood. That was all nice, but what brought us here was the rent. It was very, very minuscule, okay? I think back then when we first came in, my first rent was probably $1,800 or $1,900 a month. Today it is more than, a lot more than that, okay? More than, almost 4 times that. No, much more than that. It's a lot more. In any event, it's a great area, it's a great gym, but today I have 80% men and women and children that aren't boxers. They're white-collar boxers, or people that are in here for training, to get in good condition. I still have a very large fight gym. I probably have more pros and more amateurs than any other gym in the area. But from our history, back in 1937 to today, we've trained 134 world champions. Okay, our first world champion was Jake LaMotta, quickly followed by a fellow by the name of Phil Terranova, and it became a real hot gym after that. Once you have a champion, people want to go to the gym where there are champions, where there are trainers that train champions. So we started to get hot, and we've had people like Muhammad Ali. He started to train at Gleason's, where he was still known as Cassius Clay. He trained with us for his first fight with Sonny Liston. And he came to us because his trainer, Angelo Dundee, who was a very good friend of Gleason's and had been in Gleason's many times, was training Ali in Miami, Florida, at the 5th Street Gym, another very good gym. But he came to Gleason's because he knew this would be the camp for him to prepare himself for Sonny Liston. And he did. He went to Miami, he won the fight, became the youngest or near the youngest heavyweight champion in the world, and then became Muhammad Ali after that, and the icon of the world, not only of boxing, that he was till he passed away a few months ago. Jake LaMotta and Muhammad Ali are completely different personalities. Jake LaMotta was more gruff, didn't want to pay attention to the people that were up here, wanted to come in, do his business, and then go home. Muhammad Ali was a people person. He wanted to talk to everybody. If it was a female, he wanted to hug them. Okay, if it was a male, he wanted to talk to them and tell his story, do magic tricks, pull things out of people's ears. He was just a comedian. He loved people. And that's a complete range in boxing. You have people like Jake LaMotta. Another person like LaMotta was Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran, who is probably my favorite fighter that I've seen out of Gleason's gym, was ferocious. Okay, he was ferocious in the gym. He was ferocious towards his sparring partners. That was his personality. He wanted to win. He didn't care. He was in the ring sparring, and if you were in there sparring with him, he was going to beat you up. He didn't say, well, I'm going to take it easy on you. He wanted to be prepared for a fight. And in a fight, they don't take it easy, okay? So he would beat people up. He was gruff, like a LaMotta. But Mike Tyson, okay, what you read about Mike Tyson and the stories you heard about, the things he might have done on the streets, it might be true, it might not be true. I was never with him in the evening, okay? I only know Mike Tyson from the gyms and at fights when I was with him at fights. A great young man, personable, would talk to anybody, would sign autographs, would take pictures with people. He's another kid from the projects that that knows what it was like to be on the streets and to get into trouble all the time and have people not like you. So when he was in a boxing gym, he felt very comfortable. And with the women that came in, with the businessmen that would come in, they were trying to do something that Mike Tyson did. So he was proud of that. He was happy that people wanted to do what he was doing, what he was the best at. So he liked that, and that was his personality in the gym. He would be very nice to people. So, you know, we've had many good champions. You know, Joey Gamache, a very good champion, a personable guy. Okay, Joey, I knew Joey from his amateur days. We go way back. My father was involved with boxing. After my father left Trenton, he worked for the Olympic Center, and he was the manager of 2 United States Olympic teams. He was in charge of sending athletes all around the world on competitions. And when Joey was an amateur, he was a great amateur. He came from Lewiston, Maine. His dad, Joey's dad, was involved quite a bit. So my dad and Joey's dad, Johnny, but Joey's dad and my dad were friends. They knew one another. And I was coming up, and I started working. I became the national chairman for the Junior Olympics out of Colorado Springs. I knew Joey very well. I know some good stories about Joey, but that's not for our camera today. But you know, Joey's a typical kid. He's a kid that became a very good fighter. He's not from New York City. He's not from Philadelphia. He's not from LA. He's from Maine, okay? A small area, which proves that if you want to be a good boxer, if you want to be a champion, it's you, the individual. It's not your environment. It's not your trainer. It's not the people that are around you. Their support, they absolutely support. Wives support, trainers support and tell you what to do. But only you as an individual can make yourself a champion. So if you listen to these people and you appreciate the people and you trust the people and you trust your trainer and you trust what he's saying, and if you do what he says and you have that determination, you can become a champion. So it doesn't matter where you live. You don't have to be from Gleason's gym in the Big Apple, okay? You can come from anywhere. Fortunately, after Joey turned pro, he was in New York and he trained at Gleason's quite a bit. So I count Joey as one of our champions down here. But when Joey was training, it was really more of a heyday of boxing in New York than it is today. And we have people like Kevin Kelly and Junior Jones, Tom Boom Boom Johnson, Arturo Gotti, Joey, all training at the same time. So you could be a spectator. You could walk in the gym. I have 5 rings. You could see a world champion training in each of these rings. Regilio Tor from Holland was over here training with us. So you would have champions sparring with one another. So it was a fun place. It was much different than it is today. There's not a lot of boxing in New York. Actually, boxing is non-existent in the state of New York at the moment.
Why is that?
That's a situation that came up a few months ago when MMA, mixed martial arts, was approved in New York. Albany changed some rules and regulations to allow MMA in, and what they did to boxing, which was devastating, is they increased the insurance requirements for a boxer. So now if a promoter puts a show on, each individual fighter must have $1 million coverage. Okay, so this is extremely expensive. So the majority of promoters don't use New York because they can't afford the insurance. But the real kicker, because we have Madison Square Garden, we have the Barclays Center, we have promoters that come in here that can afford the insurance if you're talking about a multi-million-dollar fight. But the insurance that's required by the state of New York is non-existent. So even if the promoter wanted to get it, there's no place to get it. So until the law is changed or amended, there's no boxing in New York. And obviously it will. Obviously people realize that a mistake was made, but when you're dealing with government, things move very, very slowly. The fighters are protected. There's a lawsuit against the New York State Athletic Commission at the moment. 2 years, maybe 2.5 years ago, there was a Russian fighter that was injured at Madison Square Garden. He has brain damage. He's in the hospital. There's a dispute, who's right, who's wrong. You get attorneys involved, so there's many sides to one case, okay? But as a result of that, they said that each fighter has to have this massive insurance just in case it happens to him again. So, medical problems, insurance problems are something that are very difficult to argue against. How can I, as a boxing advocate, wanting to have all my fighters totally secured, argue that the New York State Athletic Commission has too many rules and regulations for safety? But you have to find a happy medium, because at this point, they've over-regulated, so there's no boxing. So these kids that I want to box and to be protected can't box. Okay, so it's not protection, they can't box at all. So there has to be a happy medium, and there always is. If people are willing to work together, if the Democrats are willing to work with the Republicans and talk, you always come to the middle of the road. That's what we have to do at this point in the state of boxing for the insurance and get it back here. But getting back to your original question, the number of champions, we've had quite a few of them. They're terrific. 99% of them are just wonderful people. There's always a certain percentage that are nasty or aren't the usual. But boxers, for the most part, are very nice, wonderful people. And that's what's made my job and being the owner of Gleason Gym so much fun and so great over all these years. Love them. I love women boxers. I was a big supporter of women boxing. We had women training at Gleason's Gym before that was allowed to compete. When I was in Manhattan, we would have many women in Gleason's Gym. And the reason why they would come in the gym was for reasons such as we're doing today. There would be interviews, there would be TV shows, there would be commercials. There was always women to be in the gym as a support for something else other than boxing. But many of them would look around and say, this is a terrific workout, I want to work out, I want to train, can I train at your gym? And at that time I had a partner, the fellow that I was mentioning earlier, Ira Becker. He was older than I was. And although we were equal partners, again, my personality, my upbringing said that he was older than me. It was his gym. I bought in half of his gym. So I respected what he had to say. And he was an old-timer who said, hey, women don't belong in the gym. Women belong in the kitchen. And that was, this is back in the early 80s. And this was his upbringing from the 40s and the 50s, okay? So who am I to argue? Except a recession was coming in and we needed money. So I would go to him and I said, Ira, when I go to the bank in the morning and I make our deposit, they don't say, hey, is this cash coming from a woman or is this cash coming from a man? I said, we need cash. Why are we cutting out half of the population? Let's let the women get started. So finally he agreed. However, my gym in Manhattan was much smaller than my gym is here today. And we only had one bathroom and we only had one changing area. So I started an experiment and I closed the gym early 3 nights a week for the men, kicked the men out, and I let women come in 3 nights a week. And a fellow by the name of Louis Rivera, a real good referee and trainer and friend of mine, I said, listen, let's start an experiment. You be the trainer and we'll have a group of women come in. And we started, the first group was 6 women. It was amazingly successful. When I moved over to this location a couple years after that, we built a facility for women. They have their own private bathrooms, showers, changing area, the whole bit. And today, 1/3 of my membership is women. Okay. Now, of that, about 30 of the women are professional or amateur fighters, real competitors. The other women are here for conditioning, to work out, to do training, get into condition like a boxer, but they don't actually compete. Of my 30 women that do compete, 6 of them are currently world champions. So the women are terrific. Of my history of champions, this is the first time in history that I have more female champions than male champions. And it's a great thing. The women come in, they're easier to train. Their attitude is much superior to the men. They train harder than the men. First thing, a woman comes in and says, teach me how to box. I don't know how to box. So you start from 0 and you start to train the person, okay? Much easier. Every man that comes in here, whether he's a businessman or a kid from the project, I'm a fighter, I know how to fight, I'm tough, I do this. They don't know crap. But you have to spend months breaking down all their bad habits until you get to their point where the women is when she comes in the first day. Then you can start training. The women also train harder. You tell a woman what to do, she does it. And she does it harder. Again, most of the women that come into the gym today aren't here to become fighters. They're here as a challenge. It's made many of the women have great jobs, they're college educated, they have a good income, they're nice looking, and it's a challenge to them. So they're not coming in here to become a fighter. It's a challenge, but they want to learn the sport. They want to learn everything about the sport. And they train very hard. They listen to their trainers, okay? The men, on the other hand, come in, half of them come in because they want to make money, half of them come in because they've watched it on TV, and as sitting on a couch watching boxing on TV, they think they can do anything. Oh, I can do this, I can do that. They don't know that boxing is the toughest sport in the world, okay? There's no such thing as a tomato can or a bum in boxing, because it takes tremendous guts, courage, just to walk into the ring. There's such a fear, there's such an adrenaline rush, okay, that it's overcoming. And when you have enough courage to step into that ring and go up against an opponent who's trying to hit you, okay, trying to punch you right in the nose, trying to give you a concussion, okay, it's scary, okay? So one of the things we have to do, in addition to getting them trained physically, is to work on boxers mentally. Boxing is more mental than physical. In my estimation, boxing is 50% mental, 40% conditioning, and 10% ability.
Mental sport. Joe says mental.
Absolutely, it's a mental sport. Absolutely, totally a mental sport. We have to teach you to do the right thing, not only inside the ring. Do we have to teach you a chess game so you know how to move, anticipate your opponent's move, and be ahead of them. We have to teach you to be the leader. Okay, so if you're dancing, man leads, woman follows. In boxing, you have to be the person that leads. Okay, you can't let your opponent lead you. You're going to go into the boxing ring with a game plan. So is your opponent. You have to be smart enough not to let your opponent overcome you, and you then follow his game plan. Okay, you also have to be smart enough to know how to change your style. You're going to go into this fight, you have a game plan and you have a style. All of a sudden, hey, it's not working out. He's got a pretty strong will. He's not doing what I want him to do. So you have to know how to change up in the ring, okay? You have to be smart enough on the outside of the ring to do everything that's right. You have to eat properly, have sex properly, drink properly, no drugs properly. You have to do everything that it takes. So you can lie to everybody in the world. You can't lie to yourself. Okay, so when you're looking in the mirror in the morning, you know whether you did your road work. You know whether you did this, what your trainer told you to do, or whether you did that. You know whether you ate properly. You know whether, boy, you know, it was a birthday party last night and I had half a bottle of wine, you know, or I had a highball. You know, you have to, if you want to be a champion, you have to do the right thing, okay? So the right thing and the champion is the person that does properly eat, does properly drink, does properly control his sex, does properly do everything he says. The night before a fight, or the day of the fight, when you're sitting on the stool or you're in the waiting room, okay, waiting to be called, if you did everything your trainer told you to do, and you trust your trainer, you're going to win. If you don't trust your trainer, you're going to lose. If you didn't do everything your trainer told you to do, you're going to lose. What happens? If your trainer told you to run a mile, and you ran half a mile, that day it's fine. But when you're sitting on the stool waiting to go in there, your mind's going, why didn't I run that mile? Why did I only run a half a mile? And if you open the door a little bit to doubt, you're going to lose. So the smart fighter doesn't. The smart fighter does everything he has to do. He has to follow. He has to listen to his trainer. Okay? He has to do everything properly without his trainer. On the outside, the eating, the drinking that we're talking. Now he goes in. He says, my trainer's smart. My trainer's good. And I did everything he told me to do. I'm going to kick that guy's butt. Okay? But if you're not smart and you don't do these things, you open the door to doubt and you're going to lose. You start to build excuses for yourself. Well, I'm going to lose because I didn't do this, and I'm going to lose because I don't feel good. And once you start doing that, making excuses, you've lost. You've already lost. So the one world champion per weight class, the one gold medalist per weight class, they're smart. They're in great condition. They are talented. They want to be champions. So the person that wants to be a champion can be if he's willing to sacrifice mentally and physically to do the right thing. I regret that I didn't keep notes from the early, because I'm 70 years old and I've forgotten so much too. But there's so many stories out of Gleason's gym. I wish I had, but no, I never did.
Would you be interested? Would you be willing to put things down in a diary? Would you be willing to go back in time, sit down and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to write my own story, because this is boxing world history.
Yeah. Well, I have to think about it. Many people, have told me I have to write a book. I don't know. We'll see. I love what I'm doing. I get up 4 o'clock in the morning. I come here and open the door about.
What time you open? What time you
close? Okay. Well, I'm busy, so I think about writing books. I think about doing some videos, but I don't do it because I'm busy. So maybe that's an excuse. Maybe it isn't. But the gym is open 7 days a week. We're open from 5 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. Okay, I open the gym in the mornings. I get up 4 o'clock in the morning. I live in the city. I shower and I get over here by about 20 minutes to 5. I open the door and we have people waiting to get in here right at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I try to stay usually to 5:30 at night. Many nights I have to stay longer because there are many events that we do in here. And I am not saying this for any other reason to tell you there's long hours, and that's why I don't do a lot of other things. But I love what I do every minute of the day. I never know when my phone rings who's on the other end of that phone, whether it's a politician that wants to use my gym as a fundraiser, whether it's somebody from Hollywood saying we want to do a movie, someone from TV. During the time that we've been open, I'm proud to say we've had the 134 world champions, but we've also done 26 full-length movies up here. And 4 of my movies won Academy Awards. Okay, so the first one to win the Academy Award, we trained Robert De Niro, who won the Academy Award for Raging Bull, and we shot Raging Bull. The Rocky series, we were more involved with the first Rocky series with filming, but we trained many of the actors and actresses and Stallone and his kids and brother for other roles. The third one that won the Academy Award was a film called Mighty Aphrodite. It was by somebody that I'll think of his name in a second, but it was a mystery and a love story. Woody Allen, I'm sorry. Woody Allen wrote this and did it, and it was a mystery and a love story, but there were a lot of boxing scenes, and all the boxing was done up here.
He came here.
Oh yeah. He was the #1 best director I've ever had up here. We've had Clint Eastwood up here. Clint Eastwood was terrific, but when Woody Allen was up here, everything was one take. When Woody Allen was terrific. When Woody Allen was up here with his movie, everything was one take. Now, from what I found out, I've asked a lot. His crew is pretty much the same crew from one movie to the others. They have all worked with him. They all know him. They know his personality. So it was a little bit easier. But I've had a full range of directors and producers, particularly the directors. Some of the directors, like Woody Allen, are great. They know what they're doing. It's 1, 2, 3. We've had other directors up here. I laugh because they're like beginning boxers. They're learning as they're doing it. And to me, sometimes it doesn't matter because with the movies, they usually pay me by closing me down for the day or hourly. So the more hours they want to take is okay with me. But of our movies, we had these. The last one that won the Academy Award was $1 Million Baby with Hilary Swank. Hector Roca trained him, but there were many others, Clint Eastwood and the others that were here. But the people come in here, they use it for many, many different reasons. In addition to the movies, every television show that's shot out of New York has filmed an episode or more episodes here at Gleason's. Every magazine that you can imagine, that you can name from around the world, has probably filmed in here. We do fashion shoots. It's amazing what people. I've had in the gym bar mitzvahs, weddings, corporate parties, special events, book readings, book signings, musical events. This weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, we're doing the off-Broadway play Golden Boy. So the gym is used for many things, and it's great. That's what makes it so much fun. And the fighters that train here and the other individuals that train here like that, because it's never boring. You never know what star is going to be in here, what politician is going to be here, what's going on today. And most of the time, I ask that whatever activity is going on is done while I'm open for business. I don't want to close down, okay? So if a film is going on or a fashion shoot or an interview, boxing can be going on in the background. Fashion shoots the same way. You can shoot here and nobody's bothering you. When you want to go to a ring, you go into a ring. That's private, that's yours, and people will come back into this area. So, you know, we shoot as much as possible up here, do as many things that don't have to do with boxing as possible. I want as many people that are not boxers to come into a boxing gym and see how great the sport is. The sport has a bad reputation, and it's a wrong reputation, but people think that boxing is tough, that the gyms are bad, that the people that are there are tough people, and they're not. They're great people. I'm sure your crew today has found out that everybody's nice, they're pleasant, nobody's giving you a hard time up here. So I want to bring people that would not normally come into a boxing gym when I have a poetry reading, okay, when I have a book signing. They come in. This weekend, the people that are going to come to see a Broadway or off-Broadway play wouldn't normally come into Gleason's gym. So they're going to come in, they're going to look around, they're going to see it's a nice place. Hopefully I'll get a few of them for customers, but more importantly, they'll realize it's nice. Their daughter can go into a boxing gym, their son can go into a boxing gym, their husband can go into a boxing gym, they can go into a boxing gym and get in a really, really good condition. So I do as many things up here as I can. It's good for the sport, it's good for me as a businessman, and it's fun. It's the reason why I want to come in here every day. De Niro and Hilary Swank both won Academy Awards. They, like boxers, wanted it. They both took time to learn the personality of a boxer. They hung out not only in the gym and learned how to move around in the ring, but they went home with the fighters. They went to birthday parties with the fighters. They went to dinners with the fighters. They went to fights with the fighters. They wanted to get into the mindset of a fighter. And Robert De Niro did it. Robert De Niro actually was very good and wanted to become a pro fighter. He wanted to have a pro fight. He didn't want to give up acting, but he was so into boxing and he was so good, and we was told that he was so good, he actually wanted to become a fighter, and he wanted us to get him a pro fight. We did not, because his management would not let it. His management said, no way can you go in there and do some fighting. But he was very good, very talented, very, very dedicated. That's the reason why he won an Academy Award. Hilary Swank for $1 Million Baby, same thing. She came in here in good condition, and she's probably a good athlete, but she was underweight. We put 18 pounds on Hilary Swank, but when you saw the movie and you saw her posters, she was cut. She looked great. She was really, really in good shape, okay? But she spent hours upon hours in the gym every day. She took a subway from Manhattan into the gym every day. She went to home and went to birthday.
Training schedule.
She worked 6 days a week, okay, for probably 3.5 months, every day. Straight. Went to fights with us, went to amateur fights with us, went to birthday parties with us, went to dinners with us. She again wanted to learn what does a boxer do? What does this woman in $1 Million Baby have to do? You know, what is this life? She's living in a trailer park. She doesn't have a whole lot of money. What's her life like? Well, Hilary Swank wanted to find that out. She went, what does this woman do? How does she come into a male-dominated boxing gym? Even though I have a lot of females, you know, the sport is still, it's male-dominated. She's a good-looking woman. How does she manage? And so that's what she wanted to know, and that's what she found out. That's why she won an Academy Award. She wanted it. Now, we've trained many, many actors. I don't know how many, maybe 100 actors, okay? 2 of them won the Academy Award. We all come in here, we all teach them the motions, we all teach them the movement, but like a fighter. If they don't want to go the extra mile, if they don't really want to win an Academy Award, they're not going to do it. If they want to win an Academy Award, like a fighter that wants to win a gold medal, they can do it. I currently have 88 trainers.
88?
88 trainers, right? They all...
For more people, or do you keep the same number?
They come and go. Very little turnover. But I every once in a while somebody gets too old, somebody moves out of the area, and we change them around. But we have 88 trainers, and they're all qualified. They're licensed by the state and by the amateurs. And most importantly, they have to fit my bill. Okay, I have to know the person. I have to know that I want that type of person representing Gleason's gym. But they're talented and good. Well, okay. Well, okay. I'm going to give you two answers to that. One before women and one after the women. Before the women came in here, it wasn't as much of a problem as it is today. The biggest thing would be personalities. You know, the trainers all have personalities, and when you come in and you're training with one trainer, and then all of a sudden that client wants to switch to a new trainer, there's always a little friction. You have to make sure that one trainer didn't steal the person. It was up to the client to change. So it's if you're a mother and you have children, it's no different than children, okay? Except that instead of having 2, 3, 4 of them, I have 88 of them. You love them. Every once in a while, you have to put your foot up their backside, but you still love them. But you know, kids are kids, trainers are, they get into a little bit of mischief, a little bit of trouble. That's what I have to do. I still have to do that today, but I have an added incentive. Prior to women, I never had the problems of the birds and the bees. Okay, women come in here, they're trained a little differently than the men. Okay, the men, you know, hold them a little closer and help them a little more with their sit-ups and their push-ups than they do with the men. So again, there's times when a relationship is built between the trainer and one of the clients, and then as soon as the relationship is over, I lose the client. I don't lose the trainer, I lose the client, okay, the woman. You know, and those are things that I have to keep on. I just currently renewed my sexual harassment papers with all the trainers. They have to sign a sexual harassment form. We go over what it means. They know what it means, but I have to go over it with them. The women sign it as well, as my male trainers. But you know, that's a newer problem that I have since I have the women. But the women are so worthwhile and so much worth having here that it more than makes up for the problems. And the problems of the men and the women, I mean, you have that anywhere. It's the birds and the bees. You know, you have men and you have women. You have men and you have women. You know, what are you going to do? But you know, you have to keep your eye on it, because what I have found is that what one person, whether it's the trainer or whether it's the pupil, they say something or they do something, and in their mind they look at it one way. They look at it as very innocent. And hey, so hi, how you doing? I gave you a little hug. Innocent. I do it to everybody, right? That one particular individual doesn't want to be touched, doesn't want to be hugged. Okay, and so you have to be smart of what you do. You have to know who you are, and you have to realize that when you say something to an individual, or you gesture some way to an individual, they might not interpret it the way you mean it. So you have to be very, very careful. Now that's common sense. I mean, you have that in everyday life. You have a fight with somebody, you talk to your boss, you talk to somebody, and you're saying something to them, and you know what you mean, but that person, that's not what they're hearing. They hear something different that you're saying. So it's different with women and men in the office. So that's my other problem that I have.
Correct?
I do 18 amateur shows a year.
Okay, that would be equivalent to
6 months I do 2, and 6 months I do just 1. But in total there are 18 shows, and they're all amateur shows. A long time ago I did pro shows up here, but then the New York State Athletic Commission came to me and asked me not to run pro shows because it wasn't profitable enough. It was really, the shows weren't to make money. The shows were for my 4-rounders and my 6-rounders. Those are my beginning fighters to get an opportunity to get their record set, get some experience, and have it go on their books, etc. But it was too costly for the state to do that. So I now only run amateur shows, and 12 of the shows are part of a monthly series which is open for anybody. The other 6 are specialized shows. It might be an international team that's coming in, it might be a Golden Glove show, it might be something just a women's show or just a man's show. So 6 of them are specialized shows. The other 12 are part of a monthly series that I have every year. Oh, certainly. It's affected the game that there's less network television today than there was in the past. There's a number of reasons for it. One of the main reasons is competition. You go back into the 80s, the late 70s and the early 80s when network television, NBC and ABC, Wide World of Sports were carrying this, or if you go back a little bit further when there were the Friday night fights with Gillette, there wasn't as much competition as there is today. Today in New York, for example, but network can be anywhere, but in New York you have 2 baseball teams, 2 football teams, 2 hockey teams, you have tennis, you have concerts, you have so much going on that was not around 20 or 30 years ago. So there's more competition for network television than there is today. Also, sometimes boxers hurt themselves, promoters hurt themselves because, for example, if you are a TV operator and you say, I want to put on the Rose Bowl, Rose Bowl game in 2018, 2 years down the road, you can sign a contract and that show will go on. Whatever date you sign for in 2018, that show will happen. Okay? If you do that to a boxer or to a boxing promoter and you sign a contract, sometimes those shows don't happen. You're not lucky with a boxing show until that first bell rings and there are competitors in there. There are medical problems, there are physical problems, there are personal problems that stop fighters from fighting, stop a competition from going on. So sometimes it's safer for the network to go to another sport. Go to soccer, you're dealing with a league. Go to football, you're dealing with a league. Go to baseball, you're dealing with a league. Go to boxing, you're dealing with an individual, and anything can happen with an individual. So it's difficult. They're trying little by little to get back into networks. Hopefully it will. I personally think in my lifetime I've seen so many things go in cycles. There's ups and downs in everything. And I've seen low times in boxing, low times on TV, and high times. And right now, television is at a low period, and I absolutely think it will come back. Very, very good fighter today. I have a funny recollection. You asked me for recollections in our very first question. I remember sitting around the dinner table with my dad when I was just a kid, and my father saying, the fighters today are not like they used to be. The fighters before were so much tougher, so much better. Here I am saying my father's exact words, okay? The fighters today aren't what they used to be, okay? The fighters back in Joey Gamache's time, back in the 80s, back in the 90s, back in the 70s, were tougher. There was more of them. There were more good champions at every weight class. Today you have guys like Canelo, great. You have Mayweather, great. You have Triple G, great. But you have one. You're talking about one guy in this weight class. They say they're good. Mayweather says he's the best in the whole world, that fighters couldn't carry his jock strap. I can't see that at all. Not that he's ducked anybody. He fights everybody that's out there. But the quality of the fighters today is not what it used to be. Again, remember what I was telling you. When we had Boom Boom Johnson, Regilio Tour, Junior Jones, Joey Gamache, Arturo Gatti, they're all in the same weight class. These are all great fighters. So yeah, you fought one guy, and okay, now I'm going to fight that guy. Now you fight another. So you fight a lot of really good fighters to become great. You don't fight the best of the crew out there when the best of the crew is subpar. It's the same reason why some fighters don't like to train at Gleason's gym. And the reason is because if they're in a smaller gym in Queens or in the Bronx, they're in a smaller gym, they're kingpin. They're the best in that gym. And everybody's like, wow, that guy's really good, look at him. You come to a gym the size of Gleason's where there's a multitude of good fighters, they're no longer the kingpin. They're now subpar or par with others. But they don't get the acclamations that they got in the small gym. So they don't want to come to Gleason gym. They want to stay in a smaller gym where they're kingpin. Okay? So it's personalities, it's stuff like that.
last thing that I have to say, my father came here the last time. I lost my father almost 2 years ago.
Sorry.
He was a boxing journalist, a boxing writer. He loved the game, and I remember the last time when we came here with my dad and Joey, and you were really kind to him. And what do you have to say for those mamas and daddies that they have a kid that she or he don't want to become a fighter? What do you have to say to them, to the parents? Okay, my son wants to be a fighter, but I'm so afraid. This is such a tough game. It's so violent. I don't know. I can't take violence. What would you say to the mamas and the daddies for their kids?
Okay. You know, there are many mothers and fathers that call me on the phone or come up here and they say, my kid's terrific. He's watching TV and you should see the moves, how good he is. And they want the son to become the fighter. The son doesn't want to be the fighter. But there are times when a kid's telling us, well, I want to be a fighter for whatever reason. You have to give the individual, you have to give the youngster and the opportunity to determine for himself. Now, as a youngster that comes in here, and it could be a youngster, it could be 18 years old. I mean, it doesn't have to be a little kid. They're not going to get hurt in a boxing gym. I've owned this gym for 37 years, accident-free. Okay. Now, yes, you can hurt your hand, you can get a cut, but you're not going to have a serious injury. You're not going to have what happens to some of the pro fighters. Okay. It doesn't happen. For the first 5, 6, 7 months, you don't even go into a ring and spar with anybody. There's not an opportunity to get hit. Okay. Then, once you've been trained to defend yourself, then the mother or the father has to say, yeah, okay, I want to see my son try it. So we're not going to force it on the person. But for this first 5 or 6 months, remember in one of my other questions, I was telling you how hard this workout is, okay? If you want to be good, if you want to have the courage to step through that ring, you have to be trained. And the training is hard. So many of the people come in and say, I want to be a fighter. Within the first month, they're out. You don't see them anymore. They don't really want to be a fighter. And rather than be the bad person as a mother and a father, give them the opportunity. Most of them will weed themselves out. Now, the few that continue, that want to stay in the sport, they're protected. It's going to be a long time before they go in. But what's the benefit? The benefit is this youngster is going to be totally focused. He's going to be totally concentrated. He's going to know how to overcome his fear. He's going to be able to walk down the hallway in a school and not be bothered. Not because we told him to be tough and to punch the bullies, but the bullies look for kids that are innocent, kids that are easy prey. But when you're trained and you have self-confidence and you rely on yourself and you walk down the hallway a little bit different, they're going to leave you alone. They're going to wait for that innocent kid. So you're going to save your son embarrassment. You're going to teach him in school. But this concentration and this focus that he has to have when he's in the ring, and that we're teaching him how to ignore the boos from the audience, how to ignore all the people that are yelling, except listen to your trainer, hear your trainer, only your trainer, focus on your trainer. He's going to do that on school. He's going to do that on his schoolwork. He's going to do that on his papers. He's going to do better if he's working for a living instead of not working for. He's going to be better than his opponent if he goes for a job interview. Okay, he's going to feel good about himself. Whether he's a boy or a girl, his clothes are going to feel better. He's going to know he's in good shape. He's going to know he looks good. He's going to have this confidence. So he's going to go for a job interview, whether it's a bank teller or whether it's at McDonald's. He's going to get the job before everybody else. The others are going to go in looking like slobs, undressed, not concentrated, not focused. So we're going to help these individuals. We're going to help these kids, whether they're in school or whether they're in work. In the same way, we're going to help these kids that the question is about. We're also going to help their parents. If their parents come in here and train, they're going to land the same focus, the same concentration, also how to overcome their fear. So if they have an argument with their spouse, if they have an argument with their boss, they're going to come in here, they're going to know, hey, forget it, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to hit the bag. I'm going to get my frustration out on the bag. They're not going to get fired. They're not going to worry him crazy. Get that kid into this boxing gym, and believe me, when we send him home, he's going to be tired. All he's going to want to do is his homework, eat, and go to bed. So we're going to save marriages. We're going to make the kids better. We're going to make people feel better. Gyms, all boxing gyms, anywhere in the world are good places, especially for kids. It's going to teach kids the right thing to do, outside of the ring and the right thing to do inside of the ring.
Two quick things, because we covered quite a lot. Any regrets of any kind related to what you do? Because you love what
Yes.
you do. No doubt. But any sort of regrets and a final thought
Okay.
to us,
Yeah.
to the audience, to the
We were talking and bantering a little bit a while ago. I'm not sure whether it was on camera or not, but we were talking about a book. Had I ever written a book, or should I write a book? My biggest regret is that I didn't keep a log of the many things that have taken place in the boxing gym and in this gym. Not only the celebrities and the personalities that have come up here, but the gangsters that have come up here, the police situations that have come up here. There's so many things that have happened, so many people that are renowned in life today that have come through Gleason's gym. I wish I had kept a log. I talked to a very good friend of mine and probably one of my top trainers, Hector Roca, who has a much better memory than me. He's a couple years older, but his memory is better than mine. And we reminisce a little bit and talk about different things. But my biggest regret is that I didn't keep the log so I could have written a book. As far as something physical that happened up here or bad or ornery, there is nothing. There's nothing in 37 years that's terrible that happened up here. We have no accidents up here, no major problems of any sort. I'm able to pay my bills. So I'm happy. I think this is a terrific place, and I recommend it for anybody because, and again, when I say I recommend it for anybody, I mean I recommend boxing for anybody. And there is a boxing gym in every city, every town, every nook and cranny in the whole world. You can go anywhere and you can find a boxing gym. And the kids should be in it. The parents should be in it. It's an inexpensive sport, but what it does for you mentally mostly, but physically as well, is terrific. You can't get that combination anywhere else.
Keep it a top secret from me, bro. There's a new movie coming out. It's a new movie.
What new movie?
Big production is going to take place.
Well, I hope so. We have our production this weekend and next weekend for the play. On Tuesday, I have a huge affair here with Tag Heuer, the watch company. They're making a commemorative watch for Muhammad Ali, and there are all kind of huge celebrities will be here. Well, Ang Lee has been training, but Ang Lee's been working on this for 2 years, and the problem is funding. And what it started out, I haven't talked to him recently, but what he started out, his project was to do the trilogy of Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, and he was going to do it in 3D. Okay, so Ang Lee is an Academy Award-winning director and a wonderful individual, and he's great with the movies that he's made. So I really hope that the funding comes about, and he does. So that's a big major production. But Bleed is just coming out with Chuck Wepner, the one that just came out a couple weeks ago with Roberto Duran. Boxing movies are forever.